Three Little Birds and 3,000 Miles. And if you don't mind, I need some audience participation from anyone who is from St. Louis originally. I'm curious where you went to high school.
Kirkwood.
Metro.
Lindbergh.
Webster.
Riverview. Eastwood Central.
Wow, we have a full house of St. Louis. Well, thank you. So like I mentioned a few weeks ago in my table topics, I'm not from St. Louis. I moved from Florida in 2012 as a result of the cross-country road trip I took back in 2012. I won't tell you where I went to high school, but I will tell you the journeys that I've taken. Although it's only 1,000 miles from Florida to Missouri, my trip was over 3,000 miles. How is this possible? And no, it's not because I need to be more pedantic about reading maps. You see, originally I began in Cleveland, Ohio in 1980, so that's where I'll begin. I have one younger brother and 14 cousins who were my playmates and close friends. I have many fond memories of spending time with them, but one that stands out is collecting the beautiful fall leaves and sealing them between wax paper to serve as the next proudly displayed art project on the fridge. My extended family was very close, and we spent time together at picnics, birthday celebrations, and family gatherings. When I was 10, my parents decided to move us to Florida, which I was very sad about because this meant leaving my large family. We had a going away party the night before we left, and everyone was there. And when I say everyone, I mean about 100 people. My family was very large. The next morning, we began our drive to Florida, and once we got there, we began our new life. The years quickly passed, and before I knew it, I was 18 years old working in corporate America. I was always very successful in the jobs I held and in all the classes I took, but I knew I wanted more from life than Florida could give me. In July 2012, I went to Costa Rica for a yoga retreat. That was my first international trip, and I went by myself, so it was very intimidating for me to go and be by myself. The trip was full of classes, meditation, and breathtaking views. On the last day of the trip, I wasn't looking forward to going home because, again, Florida just wasn't for me. When I returned from Costa Rica, I was told by my boss that my position was eliminated. So at first I was shocked, but quickly I became excited that I wouldn't have to go back to work and I could start looking for something else. It was time for me to make some positive changes in my life, and I started my job search in August. My best friend suggested that I take time off to explore my options, and like my big goals I set, I interpreted explore as take a 5,000-mile solo road trip. So in a few weeks' time, I was able to plan my route, take my car in for a tune-up, and get plenty of audiobooks to keep me company. I had never driven more than 90 miles before, so this was a big task, and I had to convince my parents and also myself that I was ready for the challenge. Just like the long drive I took with my parents when I was 10 from Ohio to Florida, my journey began with uncertainty of what adventures were in store. Now, I won't be pedantic and list every single city that I went to, but in my 6 weeks, I stopped in Charlotte, Cleveland, Detroit, New Orleans, and St. Louis. The time alone in my car really showed me that I was a risk taker and very independent. When my drive brought me to St. Louis, I instantly fell in love with the people, the culture, and the architecture. My friends took me to some of the city's gems, including my first Cardinals game, Ted Drew's, and obviously the Arch. When I left St. Louis and headed back down to New Orleans, I knew I'd be back to St. Louis. Once I returned to Florida, I knew it was time for me to move. And although it was going to be really hard for me to leave my family, I knew it was something that I had to do, and it was easy for me to choose St. Louis as my choice. In December of 2012, I sold all of my possessions and packed up my car, which is very small. I spent the night at my parents' house before my 2-day journey to St. Louis, and I was reminded of the going away party I had when I moved as a child. It was a bittersweet 24 hours at my parents' house as we looked through photographs and talked about our favorite memories. In a box, my mom found one of my old art projects. It was my leaves between the wax paper. In the morning, I said my goodbyes and departed after about an hour of slowly saying goodbye. I can still see my mom crying in the driveway, waving goodbye as I drove, and she could actually see me for about a quarter mile, and she really waved for a quarter mile. She might have waved longer. As I drove off, I was so happy to hear a Bob Marley song come on the radio. It was Three Little Birds. I sang along tearfully and believed that every little thing really was going to be okay, like the song suggests. My drive to St. Louis was very long and emotional. I had come so far on my journey, but had so far to go, literally and figuratively. Once in St. Louis, I stayed with friends for 1 month, and in that time, I was hired on at WashU, and I found a great apartment by the Botanical Gardens. It didn't take me long to realize there were many regional things about St. Louis. For example, Emo's Pizza and the Provel debate, float trips, toasted ravioli, Cardinal Nation, and of course, the most frequently asked question, where did you go to high school? Now that I've been in St. Louis for a little over a year, I don't have a single regret about moving. I no longer need my GPS constantly. I'm calling St. Louis home, and I'm trying to become a fan of Provel. I truly believe Bob Marley's song and that everything really will be okay.